David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with something I look forward to each year, and that is taking a look at the latest in the long line of Pen of the Year releases from Graf von Faber Castell. The pen I have to review today is actually the Pen of the Year for 2024. Sometimes these pens are very popular and it can be a challenge for Graf von Faber Castell to have a unit they could send me on loan for review. But this one was worth the wait. And I appreciate the good folks at Graf von Faber Castell for sending these pens on loan out each year. This will be the 5th year in a row that I've been able to review them. This particular pen pays homage to the historic Turkish art of Turkuray and is called the Ottoman culture. To begin with, let's take a quick look at the impressive box it arrives in. It's a bit too large for camera 2, so I recorded this little unboxing. It arrives in this nice blue outer box, which matches the color theme of the pen nicely. I appreciate when boxes have a little flap in front like this. It makes getting the larger box out significantly easier. The main box has a shiny piano lacquer finish and is very high quality. On top, there is a felt pad as well as some foam padding. Now, I have the pen in here, but it actually arrives in a separate, smaller, well-protected package. The top tray lifts out, and as you can see, has a nice slot for the pen as well as identifying graphics. Now, something which was missing from last year's pen, which I'm glad has returned, is this lower tray. It makes this box significantly more useful since you can flip the trays around and have this be a box that holds 6 pens, not just the one. The tray is made from a soft, I'm assuming faux leather, and then on the bottom there is a nice large manual with quality pictures and a lot of information about the inspiration and symbolism of this pen. And then there's also a use and care guide as well as a warranty card and certificate of authenticity. Okay, in order to get a closer look at this Pen of the Year, please join me over here at the aforementioned camera 2. The pen actually arrives in this very soft, I call it a cotton sleeve. It's not felt, it's very nice and very luxurious. And inside we have the pen. This is the Graf von Faber Castell Pen of the Year for 2024, the Ottoman culture. Each year, the goal of this pen is to tell the tales of eras that shape the history of humanity. And this year's pen is inspired by the Turkuray movement, which was the era between the 16th and 18th centuries in which the splendor and aesthetics and exotic culture of the Ottoman Empire kind of reached Europe and become a cultural thing at that point in time. The pen was designed by a Turkish gentleman by the name of Serdar Gulgan, who is a leading expert in Ottoman art, and sitting here looks like he is part of a Wes Anderson film. There is a lot going on with this pen. It is rather hefty. So right off the bat, let's take a look at the weight. Let's set it up here like this. That it is just under, it's 95 grams in total. The cap itself is 29 grams, and then the barrel is 66. So you can see that it is a significant pen when it comes to weight. Let's start by taking a look at this cap. This profile and this end piece here is reminiscent of the ornate dome of an Ottoman tent, topped by a bright red ruby. In fact, there are 18 rubies in total which adorn this pen. Ottoman tents during this movement were produced from the finest silk and were used in many Western European gardens and parks. A silk tent does sound very luxurious. Then here on the cap, we have the crescent moons, which are considered a good omen in the Ottoman Empire. And beneath each is a tassel as well as another ruby. Tassels like this were very well crafted and were a symbol of power that would embellish clothing as a status symbol. The blue portions here, which were also present on the top of the cap, are really nice lacquered guilloche. I just think it looks very nice, very classy, and I really like this vibrant blue material, almost like a lapis lazuli type blue material that they use. The clip is hinged. Let me get my finger under there. That it is the traditional Graf von Faber Castell shape, and the tension is not overly tight on it, so it's going to work well in materials of varying thicknesses. Then we have the band. On it, it says the Graf von Faber Castell right here, and then on the back it says handmade in Germany on the other side. There is a small groove between the transition from the cap to the barrel, and then the barrel begins with more bright red rubies encircling the pen here. The barrel begins with these bands of guilloche, and it tapers down until the end, where here at the end it does say, as I go around, pen of the year for 2024, and then it's punctuated by a little bit of a step down and then some more bright red rubies. And then on the very end we have something interesting. Let me get that to where you can see that in the light. That it's a tortoise with a candle on its back. Now, it represents luck, but it also recalls a tradition where Ottoman sultans would fasten candles to the shells of live tortoises, and then they would watch the animals wander around leisurely through the magnificent tulip gardens they had at night, and it would kind of cast a mystical light on the flowers. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that sounds nice, but while I'm not a tortoise expert, I have heard that the shell is part of these animals' nervous systems, and they can definitely feel what's going on in their shell. So I'm not sure the tortoises appreciated having something affixed to their shell or having hot wax dripping down on it, but it is interesting in regard to symbolism. The cap twists off with 3/4 of a rotation, and underneath we have a very nice 18 karat gold number 6 two-toned nib. I believe Graf von Faber Castell uses Bach nibs. You know, I've always thought the Faber Castell nibs looked really classy with the coat of arms. Below that, it does say pen of the year. And then you can see this one here is abroad. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with an elongated flare. Before angling up, I do like the inclusion of the guilloche pattern being extended onto the section here. I think that does look nice. And then at the end, we have a very small ink window. Let me get a better look at that ink window before the threads and a couple of significant step-ups to the remainder of the barrel. While this pen is rather hefty, I find the weight to be very well balanced in the hand. I don't believe that this has been designed to post. It doesn't post that deeply, and so I believe that even if you could post it with the weight of this cap, you're not going to want that on the back of here. But I do like the weight of this pen. I do care for heavier pens, and this pen feels very substantive in the hand. It does feel like the luxury item that it is. And for me, the threads in this step up really don't come into play with my grip. They just kind of follow the natural curve of my thumb, and I really don't feel this transition at all. This is a piston filler. The inner sleeve here is platinum plated. I do like that there are some embellishments here on there that are only visible when you are inking up this pen. I like the grooves here on the piston knob in order to get a good grip on this platinum plated metal. And I've always enjoyed hearing pistons that have a ratcheting system like that. I just like that sound. And then here on the very end of the back, it does say Pen of the Year 2024. And then it has the limited edition number of this pen. There will be 315 fountain pens as well as 85 roller balls available. Okay, let's do some quick size comparisons and then we'll talk about price. So first off, in regard to a couple of other Graf von Faber Castell models, this is a newer model for them, which is the Guilloche in Sage Green. And then here we have the Barnado. And then here we have the Anello Rose Gold, which looks very similar to the Guilloche, but you can see that is a little bit larger. And in regard to some non-Faber Castell pens, here it is with a Pilot Custom Urushi, and then a Mont Blanc 149, and then finally a Sailor King of Pen, and this one was in the Tangerine. In regard to uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Custom Urushi, as well as the Mont Blanc 149, and then finally the Sailor King of Pen. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not able to do a writing sample with this pen. There are times when pens are on loan to me, which will actually be sold. So it needs to stay in pristine and unused condition. And while I would love to be able to provide a writing sample, I feel that the chance to take an in-depth look at this pen that otherwise wouldn't have seen a review like this kind of outweighs the need for a writing sample itself. Now, in regard to price, this is obviously a luxury pen, and as with all Pen of the Year models, it also has a luxury price. Now, if you're interested in this pen, you might want to shop around. While I believe the MSRP is right around $6,400, I've seen it as low as $5,500 at certain retailers. As with other pens in this price range, you are purchasing something more than a pen. You're purchasing a piece of functional art and a statement. And I really believe that Graf von Faber Castell does an amazing job of implementing an interesting theme into a high-quality pen. And I very much look forward to seeing what they come up with in 2025. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.